Chapter 9. Part 2. In reality, there are many reasons Moses initially failed in his calling, but there is just one dominant reason. This one reason, in fact, encompasses all the others. Let's look at what Jesus Christ said when he called two fishermen to be his disciples. In the verse, Christ even revealed to them their divine purpose. And as he walked by the Sea of Galilee, he saw Simon and Andrew his brother casting a net into the sea. For they were fishermen. Then Jesus said to them, "Follow me, and I will make you become fishers of men." They immediately left their nets and followed him. Mark chapter 1 verses 16 through 18. There's a trove of gold in this verse. First, Simon and Andrew's purpose was to spread the gospel, which they were told at the very beginning of their spiritual journey. They were to catch people for God's kingdom. Second, one knows their hearts were in the right place to hear purpose because these men immediately gave up their old lives for the new life Christ had chosen for them. Like I said, lots of treasure here. But it is verse 17 that I want to focus on. Christ said, "Follow me, and I will make you become fishers of men." In other words, they weren't yet ready to preach the gospel. Sure, they were grown men, had been raised in a strict religious environment. They attended synagogue on the Sabbath, and had learned all the stories of the scriptures. Yet Christ still thought they were not quite ready to walk in their purpose, but they would be ready in time, after some preparation and training, if they obeyed Christ's call and followed him. The making comes with the following. Let me say it again. The making comes with the following. Just because God created you and me from the womb for some specific task, that does not mean that from birth we are ready to walk out this task. Not even close, actually. There is a time of preparation that comes first. In biblical terms, a time of discipleship. To be a disciple is to be a disciplined student of something. To be a disciple of Christ means to be his student. After Christ called Simon and Andrew, it took the men about 3 years of learning from him before they were finally ready to be sent out. It took 3 years for them to learn to fish for men God's way. Moses is another matter altogether. Not only was he not sent out when he first attempted walking in his purpose, but the man was far from ready. Sure, he had been trained and educated in a worldly fashion from the Egyptians, but he had not yet been set apart and trained by the Spirit. This training would occur only after he ran for his life into the wilderness and Midian. Guess who was waiting for him in Midian? The priest of Midian. Moses' discipleship began there. When Moses attempted his purpose on his own, he ran for his life at the first sign of opposition. When Moses matured spiritually, was properly prepared, and had obtained the right life perspective, only then did he attack his purpose task and succeed. I suppose there is another good reason God waited until Moses was 80 years old. It would be difficult for Moses to rely on his own power when his body was so weathered because, as we know from his story, Moses placed a great deal of confidence in his own strength when he slew the Egyptian. I used Moses as the example for all Christians who think they can just jump into whatever God may have revealed to them before their time has come. Without proper preparation, there will be no success. The scriptures are adamant on this matter. Even my own mother and father, who adopted me and my twin sisters from an orphanage in Ukraine, were in their 40s when they began their adoption journey. For my mom, there had been decades between the first inner revelation that she should adopt and actually being ready enough to do it. First, she had to be prepared by being a mother to her 4 biological children. Being a parent to them equipped her to parent orphans with serious emotional baggage, the next rung in the proverbial ladder. Even for her, there was a gestation period between the revelation and the full purpose. But that does not stop us from being eager. We all want to start now. I believe this desire has been ingrained inside all humans. Even Christ was eager to begin ministering before his time when he was just a young boy. Luke chapter 2 verses 46 to 50. When Christ was much older and more matured, in the human sense, not the divine, he was very careful to not begin walking in his purpose until the proper time. John chapter 2 verse 4 and Mark chapter 1 verse 17. As an adult, Christ understood the importance of waiting. As a child, he was eager to just get started serving his heavenly Father. Moses, in a similar fashion, once the right time came when he was 80 years old, he wasn't blindly jumping into things anymore. In fact, he was uncertain he was fully ready. Exodus chapter 3 verse 11 and chapter 4 verse 1. which was wholly contrary to how bullheaded he acted when he was younger. And there is nothing wrong with being eager to live a God-centered life. God gifts us with this intense passion so we might give ourselves fully to the call. We're like young stallions chomping at the bit, flexing our new muscles, kicking at the starting gate waiting for it to open, for the race to begin. But never forget that in order to win this purpose race, a person must be properly trained and prepared. A young colt will not be placed at the gate with fully grown racehorses. That wouldn't be fair to the colt. Nor would it be fair for God to do this with you, and He will not. There is a set path to your purpose for a reason. Without the proper preparation, you will not succeed. For instance, Abraham's purpose was to be a father of a nation. God's plan was for him to fulfill this by Abraham fathering one child, Isaac. Through Isaac, Abraham would become the father of a nation. Isaac was to be the son of the promise. But Abraham was old and impatient, and at times over the years didn't fully trust God to make good on His promises. So in a moment of weakness, he and his wife decided to take the matter into their own hands. He attempted to walk in his purpose by fathering a child with another woman. Genesis chapter 16 verses 1-3. The child was called Ishmael. But the promise was not through Ishmael, as much as Abraham wanted. As soon as Ishmael was born, conflict followed him everywhere. Sarah, Abraham's wife, who was the instigator and had convinced Abraham to father her a child through the maidservant, immediately felt the sting of her mistake. And right after the Isaac, the promised son, was born, Ishmael had to leave. The promise was not through Ishmael after all. The major lesson here is that Ishmael, who was supposed to be Abraham and Sarah's impatient attempt to attain the promise early, by their own wisdom and power, Ishmael would eventually become bothersome to everyone, including to the future descendants of Isaac. Genesis chapter 16 verse 12. Isaac's children would become the nation of Israel. Ishmael's descendants would become the warring people of the Middle East who hated Israel. Abraham's attempt to walk in his purpose before the right time is still very much affecting his descendants today. But even through Abraham's mistake, God blessed Ishmael for Abraham's sake, promising that the boy would grow into a mighty nation elsewhere. Genesis chapter 21 verse 13. God is that good. In other words, be patient. Be mindful to harness your eagerness as fuel for the proper time. You don't know the deadliness of the mistakes you could make by attempting to walk in your purpose before the designated time. God will still love you, and He will do what He can to bless your personal efforts because He loves you, as with Abraham and Ishmael. But that's all it would be: your efforts, your wisdom, your strength. Let me be clear, a person pushes God out of the equation the moment they go off to accomplish their divine purpose on their own, while God follows behind, clearing the mess left in the person's wake. God must be the navigator. You will not succeed without a steady, daily partnership with Him. The point is to have God work with you, not for you. So be patient, your time will come, and it will come at just the right time.